Hey, sister. Welcome to Hope Speaker, the place for Christian widows. My name is Rachel Powell, and I am excited to talk with you today about the vulnerabilities of widowhood. Some things we're painfully aware of, and others we may not realize, and how we can protect ourselves. Wisdom is an important form of protection, and so we're going to talk about some things real honestly because there's a lot of things you don't know until you know, and I'm here to give you some safety before you encounter some of these things. Now, widowhood can be vulnerable for a lot of reasons. Some of it is outside of us, things in the world, the vulnerabilities that evil people watch for, and some of it can be places we are more vulnerable internally ourselves from being in survival mode and the pain we're going through. So we're going to talk about that today, because navigating it all alone and trying to drag yourself through it and tripping over all the things to trip on and falling in all the holes there are to fall in is the most painful and expensive way to learn. And I believe that we can learn from one another, and community and wisdom from the Word, the Holy Spirit in us, can help us to navigate this in a safer way. So let's have that conversation today. Let's just start with the reality of where we find ourselves. When you have lost your husband, he was a protector and a provider and a leader, most likely, in a whole number of ways. And when we no longer have that person, we no longer have the protection and the provision and the guarding in our lives. There are people who watch and target widows for scams, just for vulnerabilities in other ways. And we are having to learn and navigate some of the dangers of this world in a new way, in a time where we are being watched, when we are heavy in grief, where we have brain fog, where we are vulnerable and prey to our own heavy emotions and temptations. So here are two ways I want you to pay attention to, especially when we're talking about guarding ourselves. The first is guarding yourself from outward vulnerabilities. These can be really practical things. There are people who actually watch the obituaries for people who have passed away, and they target them for things like identity theft. It is very real. I experienced this myself, and when I lost Andre, he was 31. And there was so much that I didn't understand financially and all of the things he set up and ran, because that was his role in our partnership. That put me even more at risk, because what happened is people watched the obituaries and his identity was indeed stolen. I didn't know there were ways that you could help prevent this as a new widow. And they began trying to open lines of credit and loans and ordering things from stores. And there was already a pile of mail stacking up, and I didn't realize until later when I started opening it that there was a problem and that someone had been doing something in his name. This is part of the reason that I created my newly widowed checklist, because we already are navigating so much grief, and I strongly felt that new widows should not have anything added to their grief. And I wanted to combat some of these vulnerabilities. And so I will link my newly widowed checklist below, as well as a resource for new widows, if that's you or someone that you know. There are definitely men who target widows as far as romantic relationships go. The dating world has changed, and there are a lot of fake profiles, fake people that are really, really hard to discern. Now with the use of AI, they will seem like the person you want to connect with, when in reality, there's someone completely different on the other end. And so as you navigate some of these waters, it's really important for you to vet these people as far as having live conversations, or as things progress forward, giving that time, but then meeting in person, because people can drag out these long interactive relationships that are virtual for extended periods of time, where they have built trust, where they have shown interest, where your emotional vulnerabilities and your companionship desires have been tapped into, and they use it to steal money, to have you send them things. And it is not uncommon for that to happen. But not every danger comes behind a fake profile. Some of the dangers are what I like to call sharks. There are sharks in the water, sister, and there are very real men in your community that you might connect with through friendships or dating, and even in your church community who are going to be a problem and a danger to you. And this is a very difficult and nuanced area, because what I have found in my experience are that some of the strong men who have integrity in our church communities, they are the ones who might tap out because you're a widow now. And the actual strong men around you can be the ones who disappear, allowing room for the ones who may have other motivations to come in. So this isn't about fear and suspicion, but it is about being wise. We need to be extremely careful in holding boundaries and having accountability to other people who are safe. This is where community, connection, people that you are mentored under, or therapists or coaches can play a really important role in helping you to stay safe in a time where things are very disorienting. And this is where I want to bring in the second place we need to guard against, and that's our inner vulnerabilities. Things like widow's fire, just being starved for connection. Again, especially when a lot of your relationships, even couple relationships and things, disappear from you. You are isolated and lonely, and that area can be a stumbling block for us widows. It's absolutely true, and I want to name it honestly. It doesn't mean that we're dangerous, and I don't think the communities around us should disappear or treat widows like they are unsafe to ever be around an individual male by themselves. We have not become cougars or snakes, but we are human. And so again, being real honest with ourselves about where we may be struggling and having people we trust that we can be honest with is going to be so key. You're not failing or weak, you're human. And the reality is, widowhood can bring a desperation where we make connections that we later regret. And that's true of me. So I want to name this one really honestly. It's also why being part of a Christian community, a community that is really rooted in similar values and has integrity and the Holy Spirit leading them, and also where you feel like you are with a community that gets it and can be seen to be really honest about these areas where you struggle, can make a huge difference in widowhood. If you find yourself as a Christian widow navigating this all alone, you don't have to. Widowhood is already lonelier, but widowing alone makes it the loneliest of all. And I want to encourage you and welcome you into a space of Christian widows who get it. I have created a Christian widow community that is a space that I'm describing where you can find a place to belong. You don't need to navigate this all alone. And having people to be accountable to pray with you, to be known by, can change everything about your widowhood experience. You can see the links below to connect to the Hope Stronghold, which is my Christian widow community. And you can also connect with me individually for one-to-one coaching for more personalized, high-touch connection, accountability, and support. You do not need to do this alone. You do not need to navigate these vulnerabilities in widowhood all alone. I'm with you here, sister.